What causes a civilization to become powerful? Why do some societies rise from nothing and build great cities, armies, and empires, only to disappear a few generations later? Are these events random? Or do civilizations follow patterns that can be understood? More than 600 years ago, one extraordinary thinker dedicated his life to answering these questions. His name was Ibn Khaldun. He was a historian, a philosopher, a judge, a politician, and one of the first scholars to study society as a science. Centuries before the birth of modern sociology, Ibn Khaldun was already asking questions that continue to challenge historians today. He did not simply record events. He wanted to understand the forces behind them. He wanted to know why nations succeed, why empires collapse, and why history often repeats itself. Ibn Khaldun was born in Tunis in 1332. His family came from Andalusia, the Muslim territories of the Iberian Peninsula. Political instability had forced many families to leave the region, including his own. He was born into a family that valued education, scholarship, and public service. From an early age, he received an exceptional education. He studied the Quran, he studied law, he studied literature, he studied mathematics, philosophy, and history. His intellectual curiosity seemed limitless, but his youth unfolded during one of the most difficult periods in North African history. Political conflict was everywhere. Dynasties fought for power. Alliances changed constantly. Plagues spread across entire regions. When the Black Death swept through North Africa during the 14th century, Ibn Khaldun lost both of his parents. The tragedy deeply affected him. He was still a young man, but he had already witnessed war, political instability, and devastating loss. These experiences would later influence the way he understood history. For Ibn Khaldun, historical events were never simply the result of individual decisions. They were connected to larger social forces. As he entered adulthood, Ibn Khaldun became involved in politics. His intelligence attracted the attention of powerful rulers. He served in administrative positions. He worked as a diplomat. He advised political leaders. But politics was a dangerous world. Throughout his career, he experienced imprisonment, exile, betrayal, and shifting alliances. He moved from one court to another, from one city to another, from North Africa to Andalusia. He witnessed governments rising and collapsing from the inside. He saw how power transformed people. He saw how ambition created conflict. And he saw how rulers often repeated the same mistakes. Unlike many scholars who studied history from libraries, Ibn Khaldun lived through the events he later analyzed. His experiences became his laboratory, his travels became his education, and his observations became the foundation of his philosophy. One of the most important moments of his life came after years of political disappointment. He withdrew from public life and found refuge in a fortress in present-day Algeria, far from the political struggles that had consumed much of his life. He finally had the opportunity to focus on what mattered most: writing, thinking, and searching for patterns hidden within history itself. It was there that he began writing the work that would transform his legacy. The Muqaddimah. Few books have changed the study of history as profoundly as this one. It was intended as an introduction to a larger historical work, but it became something much greater. In its pages, Ibn Khaldun developed ideas that were centuries ahead of their time. He argued that historians should not simply accept stories because they were widely repeated. They should question them, analyze them, and compare them with social and economic realities. He believed that history should be studied critically. For him, facts alone were not enough. Understanding was more important than memorization. But his most revolutionary idea was still taking shape. An idea that would become the center of his philosophy. A concept he called asabiya, the force that he believed explained the rise and fall of civilizations. And this idea would change the way history was understood forever. While living in isolation, far from political courts and endless conflicts, Ibn Khaldun began developing the idea that would define his legacy. He called it asabiya. The word is often translated as social cohesion, group solidarity, or collective unity. But Ibn Khaldun meant something much deeper. He believed that every successful civilization is built upon a powerful sense of shared identity. People who trust one another, people who work together, people who are willing to sacrifice for a common purpose. According to Ibn Khaldun, this social bond is the force that allows tribes to become kingdoms and kingdoms to become empires. At the beginning of a civilization, people are often united by necessity. Life is difficult. Resources are limited. Survival depends upon cooperation. These conditions create strong communities. Strong communities create strong leadership. And strong leadership creates powerful states. But success creates new problems. As wealth increases, societies become more comfortable. Luxury replaces discipline. Prosperity weakens the values that once held people together. The unity that created the civilization slowly begins to disappear. The next generation inherits success, but forgets the sacrifices that made it possible. Eventually, the civilization becomes vulnerable. Another group, united by a stronger sense of solidarity, rises to challenge it, and the cycle begins again. For Ibn Khaldun, history was not random. It followed recognizable patterns. This idea was revolutionary, centuries before sociology became an academic discipline. Ibn Khaldun was already analyzing economics, politics, geography, education, culture, and social behavior as interconnected forces. He argued that historians should study taxation, trade, labor, population growth, and political institutions instead of focusing only on kings and battles. His approach transformed history into something more than storytelling. He wanted history to become a science. But Ibn Khaldun was not simply a philosopher observing the world from a distance. He returned to public life. Eventually, he moved to Egypt, where he found stability after years of uncertainty. Cairo became one of the most important chapters of his life. He taught students, he wrote, and he served as a judge. His reputation continued to grow. Scholars admired his knowledge. Political leaders respected his experience. Yet one of the most extraordinary moments of his life was still waiting for him. In 1401, Ibn Khaldun met one of the most feared conquerors in history, Timur, known in the West as Tamerlane. At the time, Timur was laying siege to Damascus. The meeting brought together two remarkable figures. One was a military conqueror. The other was a philosopher who studied the rise and fall of civilizations. Historical accounts suggest that their conversations lasted for several days. Imagine that moment. A man who spent his life building empires, speaking with a man who spent his life explaining why empires collapse. It was almost symbolic. History and philosophy standing face to face. In his final years, Ibn Khaldun continued teaching and writing in Cairo. He remained intellectually active until the end of his life. In 1406, he died at the age of 73, but his ideas refused to disappear. For centuries, many of his writings remained relatively unknown outside the Islamic world. Then scholars in Europe began rediscovering his work. Many were astonished. How could a 14th century thinker discuss ideas that resembled modern sociology, economics, political science, and historical analysis? Some historians began calling him the father of sociology. Others described him as one of the greatest historians who ever lived. Even today, his work continues to influence researchers across multiple disciplines. His theories are still studied in universities around the world. His observations about power, social cohesion, and political decline continue to inspire debate. Perhaps his greatest contribution was his refusal to accept history as a collection of stories. He believed that events have causes, that societies follow patterns, and that understanding those patterns can help us understand ourselves. Ibn Khaldun reminded us that civilizations are not immortal. Power is not permanent. Wealth is not eternal. Every society rises, every society changes, and every society eventually faces decline. But this is not necessarily a message of pessimism. It is a reminder that human societies are constantly evolving. The rise of one civilization creates the conditions for another. The end of one chapter becomes the beginning of the next. Perhaps that is why Ibn Khaldun remains one of history's most fascinating thinkers. He looked beyond kings and battles, beyond dates and events. He searched for the invisible forces that shape human societies. And in doing so, he asked a timeless question. If civilizations follow patterns, what can we learn from the past before history repeats itself? More than 600 years after his death, humanity is still searching for the answer.